All right, so let's start with some new inputs that have just come in, where more than 100 European Union parliamentarians have backed a proposal by India and South Africa for the waiver of the IPR, or the intellectual property rights, for COVID-19 vaccines. At least about 114 European Union parliamentarians have issued a declaration calling on the European Commission and the European Council to not block the waiver for the COVID vaccines' intellectual property rights. Now, the World Trade Organization, the proposal for the waiver was given by India and South Africa jointly last year, but it faced some pretty stiff competition and opposition from the Western nations, including many members of the EU. A statement by EU leaders reads, and I quote, "The WTO decision on a potential waiver offers a crucial and a much-needed act of effective solidarity. It is an important step in increasing local production in partner countries and also ultimately suppressing this pandemic on a global scale." The development comes ahead of the European Council meeting on Thursday and the crucial decision to be made by all member states at the WTO General Council on the 1st or the 2nd of March. The WTO had met on Tuesday to discuss this proposal, and a consensus is yet to be achieved. The 35-member LDC group of the least developed countries have come out in support of this proposal. However, for the developed world, a license-free regime means permanently altering the intellectual property landscape. Meanwhile, two pharma majors have also acknowledged that a tie-up with the Serum Institute of India, a key to mass production of COVID-19 vaccines, the British-Swedish pharma giant AstraZeneca, and also the US pharma major Novavax have told lawmakers that they are ready to scale up their production of COVID-19 vaccines in partnership with the Serum Institute of India. Now, AstraZeneca vaccines being made in India are being distributed across the world and even as a part of WHO's COVAX program. Meanwhile, John Truzino, the executive vice president of Novavax, has said that his company is actually committed to reasonable pricing and equitable distribution and allocation and expansive access worldwide, which is what will be required to fully control the pandemic. This, of course, was the statement that was put out by him. All right, now to give us more updates in terms of what all of this, of course, means, we're joined in by WION's Siddhant Sibil, who's joining us live on this broadcast. Siddhant, this is an important and an interesting proposal that's been put forth to try and take the COVID-19 vaccines outside the ambit of intellectual property rights. What kind of support is India likely to get for this proposal?
Well, Mohammed, India is getting a major support. The proposal given by India and South Africa. In fact, the meeting, as you pointed out, took place just a few days ago, in which the least developing countries group backed India's proposal, India-South Africa proposal. And there is a consensus which is emerging. But this development is key for one big reason. One, of course, is the fact that the EU summit on COVID crisis, on how to deal with the COVID crisis, starts later today. The two-day summit will deliberate on strategy to deal with the COVID vaccines and other issues. We know that the EU was embroiled in a tiff with AstraZeneca over the vaccines, and this declaration by 100 EU parliamentarians is something that will put focus and pressure on the EU leadership, that they need to act on making sure that the vaccines are available to everyone. And how does it happen? It happens by production by many countries, especially major production centers here in India. We know India produces 60% of global vaccines, and of course, when it comes to COVID vaccines, we know India's outreach to countries. India has been gifting and supplying commercially vaccines to many countries in the world, and of course, in the region, we know India is gifted vaccines to all the countries, barring of course Pakistan for usual political situation between the two countries. But largely, India's vaccine diplomacy is being lauded, and this letter is something that is going to create pressure on the EU leadership, because largely it is the Western countries who are blocking the entire entire proposal at the World Trade Organization. We know that there is a new leadership at the World Trade Organization as well, and it is expected that the consensus is almost achievable now, barring of course if the US and European Union backs it. We know that when it comes to the US also, number of NGOs globally have asked the new US President Joe Biden to make sure that he relaxes his opposition to this entire proposal, because once the entire the IPR regime is removed, that means anybody can produce the vaccine, and we know that vaccine is something that is on a short supply globally. Everyone needs a vaccine, and when it comes to fighting the COVID pandemic, nobody is safe until everyone is safe. This is something that we have heard from the global leadership, and this is only possible when everyone starts producing vaccine, especially major production centers here in India.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddhant Sibal, for joining us and getting us all those updates. It's an important development. It needs to be seen as to how much support it actually gathers in the EU. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.